we're going to answer 10 questions that are asked by the public, not just 10 questions I came up with, but 10 questions we researched and figured out that people are asking about podcasting, specifically when it comes to owning a business and branding and marketing for that. How do I hook listeners in the first 30 seconds? Can I use a podcast to generate leads? How do I speak more confidently on camera? How do I get booked on podcasts as guests? Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the More Than Meets the Eye podcast, where we talk about what's behind a person, a practice, or a product, especially when it comes to marketing. I'm Jared Taylor, and I've got my coffee or water, or actually, I need a refill. And I want to welcome you to JT Visuals, and that's spelled without the letter I because there's more than meets the eye. Today, we're looking at what is behind a practice. And that practice is specifically our niche. The thing that we do all the time is help businesses amplify their message through the power of video podcasts, and then we take that everywhere. This video is not one giant sales funnel video. I'm here to legitimately answer the questions, but if you do think that you'd like us to produce your podcast and you're in the Kansas City area, or you just need an editor, then I guess consider it a sales funnel video. But the way I'm answering it is very open, not pushy. I'm not making this for sales. I'm making this for awareness. I want people to get their message out there so that they can inspire individuals to have more fulfilling lives and make social media, YouTube, a better place. And we got a lot of these questions from answerthepublic.com, just in case you're wondering. How do I start a podcast to grow my business? Well, Freddie, I'm glad you asked. So starting a podcast alone, you don't do it to become some creator that gets paid lots of money because you're popular. You do it to build awareness, have great experiences with people, co-hosting them, and building awareness in your local area that you exist. Most of the time we find out that local businesses are not posting regularly on social media. And if they are, it's only a billboard. It's for events. It's to remind people of this coming up or some deal that you have. And that's it. You're not really communicating value or extending the brand vision into your social media channel, or it's very daunting or hard to start because of the time, the commitment, or you don't know about a certain technical aspect to it and how to do it. So once you learn how to do it and you put it out there, now all of a sudden people can't ignore you, because if you're posting every single day based on a longer video, that awareness alone reminds people that you still exist. And it builds trust and compounds over time. So you got to do it for a while too. You can see sales right away, and you can use it to help with follow-ups, and you can use it to help build awareness that you even exist, and you can drive a lot more traffic to your website or event pages. And it's through those calls, through those funnels, through those reminders that you're giving people. Even in person, when you have a podcast, you bring that ideal client on, and then you have a great experience with them. That's it. That's how you use it to grow your business. And it's actually the best way to monetize your podcast. And then another question is, should I do a podcast or video podcast? Which is better for my business? Well, Susie, I'm glad that you asked. Of course, I'm going to say video podcast because the leverage you can get from it, with it being video, now you can be on YouTube, and you can be all over social media, which is going to be so much better for your business. If you literally only have audio, I have seen people find ways for people to make it successful. Okay, the next question is, how do I create a video podcast that builds authority? Okay, I got one word for this. And that one word is consistency. Now, a really good follow-up for that is don't give up. Consistency and don't give up. It's the whole reason why I always say keep on keeping on, because it takes a lot of time. You can be naturally talented and have a better starting point as a musician and pick it up way faster than someone else, but still that other person who came into it and doesn't really know and doesn't have that natural ability, if they put in all the work and all the reps and they really apply themselves to understand and practice, then they can find themselves learning to play the guitar. It's the exact same thing here. Your authority and trust is built over time, and it's literally through a digital version of word of mouth. It's through your reputation. It's through the value you give to people, the questions you answer, and the trust that you build. That happens and compounds one video after the other. While you could go viral over one video, it shouldn't really be your aim if you're a business. Keep going. You never know if that next video is the one that takes off, and then people see all your past videos and then they pay off and you have explosive channel growth overall and your community is waiting for you. Then you can decide to go further with that and build Skool communities, online courses, write a book. There's several other ways to take advantage of what you have in a way that helps other people. Okay, here's another question. It says, how do I hook listeners in the first 30 seconds of my podcast? Okay, first off, you just got to know your audience or know who you're talking to. When you understand a little more of what they're thinking and why they're there, that can help hook them. This takes knowledge, learning, practice, rinse and repeat, because I'm not pretending I'm some expert on this. I am currently still studying all the other people who are doing this in the millions. And what I've learned from those studies is that you have to confirm the click from thumbnail, title, into the first 7 seconds of your video. After you confirm that click based on the title, like what's the subject of the title, what's shown in the thumbnail, and then people want to know about that, cut straight to it or preview it within the first 7 seconds. That's called confirming the click. And then you open a new loop. So you closed one loop of curiosity because you answered or teased or showed a question, but you got to open another one. Like pretend there's no such thing as a red Tesla, and then it shows it in a thumbnail. People are going to be wondering, is that real? Once you start the 7 seconds of that video, you would want to ask that question, is that even real? I've seen it. Yes. That could be one of the previews. And then it could say, open a new loop by saying, but what I found out after having one for 1 year was blah, blah, blah. And you could either creatively cut it off so that that can hook people into wanting to know the answer to that, or you can keep looping from there. Basically, you want to tease people, and within the first 30 seconds, you're wondering something. You're on a journey. Don't just preach at people. Open their curiosity based on what they actually want. Understanding what they actually want is the harder part. So if you're doing this in a podcast, there's a way that I would suggest is to edit it in a specific way that grabs things from later on in the video and puts it up front and edits it in a way of like, hey, here's what we're about to cover, and then we're going to have one long natural conversation. Or other ways that I've seen it is after a conversation, specifically with a guest or something, and you want to nail that intro, but you want to nail that intro about the guest or about the conversation, then what you can do is build an AI to train it, or go back and after the conversation, you can write an intro and then shoot an additional piece that introduces the episode. And you could do it in a way that's more narrative. You've been there, you're exploring it. That can drive a lot more interest. And if you're interested in a tool like that, let me know, because I do have a tool like that I'm working on releasing. And then you can actually know that you're going to honor the guest and say everything correct if you do the intro afterwards. Okay, here's one that gets asked a lot. How often should I release podcast episodes? Well, I'm glad you asked, Christopher. First and foremost, you want to be present as much as possible because we're in an attention game. If someone subscribes to your podcast on Apple Podcasts, then it shows up and up next. But if someone else releases another podcast, you get pushed over. So if you're like even 3 days in and someone subscribed to 10 podcast shows that they regularly listen to, you're going to be ignored if they missed you for the first 3 days or so. So most of it actually won't be caught in podcast platforms, and you should release really as much as humanly possible. Some people do it like daily. Some people do it every other day. Some people do it once a week. Now you could really slow it down. And if you're on YouTube, this could be a little different. Yeah, the news feed shows up, but it's less chronological than on podcast platforms. So on YouTube, it can last a little longer and it can ramp up and find the algorithm. And it can find the algorithm a year later, 2 years later, and boom, a video that you thought was already dead is waking up. So on YouTube, if you can do 4 a month which really one a week, then that is the best case scenario, just to show that people like seeing new content, fresh content. And if they start seeing it was 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 6 months ago on your video, it's going to feel irrelevant because news travels fast. New technology travels fast. Things update. The times change. The seasons change. If you're talking about Christmas, no one wants to watch a Christmas video after Christmas. But the point being, if you can handle 4, do 4. But longevity is more important. Developing your show is more important. If you're just starting out and you're uncertain of the direction you want to go and you're bringing on people, maybe start with 2. Because if you can do 2 episodes a month, that's still really good. 1 episode a month is kind of like, I'm not like totally committed to do this fully, and I'm hoping it works and does stuff, and let's just see. And so it's a good way to kind of test the water of like, are you good at your capacity to bring guests or whatever it may be? But literally the one that's doing 2 a month is going to outperform you 2 times. And they're going to get 2 times the experience, 2 times the reps, which means they're going to get better 2 times as fast as you. So really, to answer that question, it's usually 2 or 4 is the best case scenario if you're video for YouTube. Not really 3. 3 doesn't really work. You got to move the dates all weird. Can I use a podcast to generate leads and attract clients? Yes, you can, Ruth. Thank you for asking. It really depends on what kind of leads you're looking for, and it depends on what kind of person are you trying to attract. Do they listen to podcasts? If the person you're trying to attract to win clients doesn't really listen to podcasts, which I think a lot of people do in a lot of various areas, but if majority don't, maybe it's not the best platform to do first. Maybe you go somewhere else first. And then the generate lead sides just depends on more of like how the structure of your business model is and how the podcast can amplify your business model. It's not going to just magically work just because you have it. But what it can do is generate ads for you, generate buzz on social media. You can answer questions and you can bring someone on and develop them into a super lead. You can qualify them live here on the podcast. So I actually think that it helps with leads, but it's not some like massive number. It's more of a focused, qualified lead that's way closer to someone who's actually going to buy from you. All right, almost done. We're going to move a little faster here. How do I get booked on podcasts as guests? Well, that's a great question to ask, Mark, not with a K, but with a C. There are several ways to get booked, and while I'm not an expert on how to get booked on podcasts as a guest, what I would do is go and find those people that will help you, or find those brands that have their own internal networks and get on all of their shows. Because once you get in on one, you can do it again and again and again. And another way is to ask around, who do you know that has a podcast and accepts guests? And then you contact them. You cold email it, request to be on it. There's a site called podpitch.com or something like that. If it's just getting out there and just speaking that you want to do, then go ahead. But if you want to level up the experience, then it just so happens that our sponsor of this episode is a VIP guest experience for podcasts here in the Kansas City area. It's JT Visuals, and it's spelled without the I because it's more meets the eye. Yes, it's my brand. It's my company. And the team and I really want you guys to come on and experience podcasting with a perspective of trying it before you commit, or you just need content the easy way. Because when you are a guest with us, we video it and we give you roughly 5 clips that you can use for your own brand. And then after we're through with using it, if you want to put it on your website and everything, feel free, use it like it's your own. It's a fantastic way to get content and to start building your authority online. Or if you have an event coming up or you wrote a book, then it's really good to start talking about that to ramp it up. Usually people do this and they call it a press release tour. And in fact, we have several shows, so if you want to make it a whole tour, then let us know. Go to jtvisuals.com to learn more. That's jtvsuals.com. It's spelled without the I. Remember that, because there's more than meets the eye. So really, that's what I know of how you can get booked as a podcast guest. How do I run a podcast tour to build authority fast? Now, I don't know exactly what's meant here, but I know that it's a good question, Jennifer. And I don't know if they mean like shoot in bulk or if they mean go around to several different locations and do a tour and podcast and it's your own show, or if they mean a guest tour, like a press release tour. But either of those, what you want to do is reach out. You need to write it down, have the vision. Will this help your business? Will this help your brand? How will it help? What are you looking for? Identify all that and then start Googling, figuring out what's in your local area. There's probably a lot more than you think. And then it just comes down to commitment and doing what you set out to do. Okay, another question. This one's interesting. How do I speak more confidently on camera and interviews? What a fantastic question, Daniel. I'm glad that you asked. This might help somebody. To speak more confidently on camera really comes with practice. You really are your own worst critic. Or good critic, whatever it is, because if you're good at critiquing yourself, that's good, right? I don't know. Maybe you're tearing yourself down too much. However, if you approach it a little differently and you go around and you guest on podcasts, just a way to low commit, try it, do it with someone else, that can help build your confidence on camera because having a natural conversation is way easier than just staring down the barrel of a lens. Now, if you are a little more used to staring down a barrel of a lens or you just want to go right for it, then that's what you do. Practice it. Shoot videos of yourself and watch it back or listen to it. That's what you do. That's how you get better on camera. And you don't criticize yourself to the level where you hate it and you think you're not good at it and therefore you're never going to do it again. You do it in a way of like, hey, what did I do well? Give yourself some praise. And then what would I do different next time? Or what would I tweak? I need to pay attention to listening a little more. I interrupted here. Or I had this on my mind and I didn't say anything. So maybe I should take notes and write it down so I can listen well, but then write that key word so when it comes up, I won't have a brain fart and I can just go off of the topic of what I had. So sometimes it's preparation, but more importantly, it's actually practice. Because what you'll find is majority of podcasts out there are off scripts. It's off the cuff. It's interviews. It's conversation styles. And that's why people like podcasts a lot more because it's so natural. And we're in the world of AI and we're in the world of fast-paced, I'm going to sell this to you. And having just a general conversation that's decently long, you can dwell on the topic and have a better sense of understanding. Actually, there's like some small things that I do to help too. And I do this as a host to try to help relieve the nerves. And that's really just telling people, hey, we're editing this, so we're going to make it sound awesome. Don't worry. If you want to re-say something, just re-say it. And that usually helps. And the second thing is to really laugh. To relax by laughing, do something silly. And if you really need to, go do a little jog, do some push-ups, like that can actually help. Now, you run out of breath for a little bit, but then once you catch your breath, you're good again. And usually it's just pre-show jitters, so don't stop because of it, commit to it, and then realize that the same nervous energy you feel is actually the same feeling as excitement. So sometimes it's just a little bit of mindset and you can train it. The nervousness in your body wants you to move around. It's an energy that's got to go somewhere, and you need to be a little more charismatic and not like hold it in. Because if you try to hold it in, then you got this energy that's trying to escape and you're holding it in. That's when the shakes start happening, you tremble in your voice and everything. So definitely warm up your voice in the car, practice your speaking, and then go along with the nervousness. But call it excitement and don't admit that it's nervousness. And the final two questions are very interesting. And this one's really interesting because it looks like one that we've already answered, but I think the approach is a little different. So here it is. It says, how do I pitch myself to podcast hosts effectively? I'm going to put some key emphasis on effectively and pitching to podcast hosts as two separate elements of this question. So there's pitching to podcast hosts, which I recommended earlier as sending emails. Use AI to help write it, but also we can tell when you use AI. So don't just go around and AI it and scan it to listen to an episode to butter up the host and then say, hey, I think that I could be a good guest because of blank, blank, blank. Like there has to be a new approach now because we know that it's AI doing that. Or at least I do. Maybe there's other hosts that don't, and it could still work. And if you can get in front of someone in person, that is actually the best thing. Get in front of them in person, show up where they show up, meet them, serve in the same event that they're a part of, or put a booth out at an event. Like I heard someone did this for a Charlie Kirk event that was a podcast host, and he was like, hey, I'm going to pay for this. And then he did a podcast in a vendor booth area, and that's how he met like some other high profile people. So if you figure out who you want, then you could go to events that they're at. And if you get in front of them in person and can talk to them, that makes a better impact than only emailing. And that depends on how bad you want it. And that's where the effectively really comes in. How bad do you really want it? Otherwise, just keep emailing, keep listening. But I think something that really gets the attention, especially those who don't get many comments, is to leave a good 5-star review for their podcast, become a fan of it, listen to it over and over, and comment on every episode. That literally will stand out every time, especially if there's someone that's not in the millions of subscribers yet. Because if you're the one comment on every episode and they're below 1,000 subscribers, they're going to notice you. And if you want to be a guest, they're going to see that, hey, this person was listening to us. We know they understand the podcast. Let's bring them on. That can be very effective as well. That's a good way to butter up, is to give them what they actually want and not just like AI and email to say, I listened to this episode and it meant this to me. And we know it was AI, so it didn't mean anything to you and you didn't even listen to it. But also, if you're a guest with a following, show your page, just like how people want speaking gigs. It's the same for being a guest on a podcast. Make sure and have some sort of speaking page with like a portfolio of all the things that you've done, and share your existing YouTube channel or your social media. Because if podcast hosts see that you have a large following or that you're viralable, that will speak to the host a lot, especially if you're also on topic. So those 3 things can really help. Is viralable actually a word? How do I turn podcast appearances into client leads? Again, I would want clarification on this question, but thank you, Joey, for asking this. And I'm just making up names in case you haven't caught on. All right. So is this something where podcast appearance of I have my own show and I want to turn that into clients, or is this podcast appearances as guests? And usually when I hear the word appearance, I think of podcast guesting. So if you want to turn that into clients, it depends on the level of podcast show you're on. What you should do is make sure you have as many social channels as possible so that they invite you to collaborate. And if they invite you to collaborate, accept it every time. Even if it's not just you, but just accept it. And then make sure you have a YouTube channel, because if they collaborate with you on a YouTube channel, that means a lot more, because if the right person listens and watches, they could subscribe to you, or they could figure out that you're a painter on YouTube and you have your link on your bio. Make sure all your social media and your YouTube bio points towards the ability for someone to book you. Sometimes this is a dead-end road. There's no phone number, there's no email, there's no form to contact you, or you click the link and it's dead. It doesn't even exist anymore. So making sure all of that is set up, it's going to help turn podcast appearances into client leads. Another creative way is like if you have all the content and you had such a great experience and you really enjoyed it, milk that content. Like use it as much as possible. Put it in emails. Blast it in your email list. I doubt that every single person in your email list is a converted client, or if they're a past client, it could be a way for them to do something else with you. So blasting that through your email list, sharing it like that, talking about it in your networking groups. And then another creative thing is if people are leaving comments at any level, keep monitoring it for like the next 3 to 6 months. Monitor those comments. If someone comments, they could be a potential client and you'd have no idea because you don't care about responding or reading comments. So get into that. That can really help get the most out of your podcast appearances. And any chance you get on TikTok, on Instagram, hit those repost buttons. On YouTube, it lets you actually say something. You can make a regular post on YouTube according to a video. You can remix the video, and you can green screen yourself and point up and then commentate and react to your own clips and what you said and just expand on it. You can really just milk this. Make sure and post it on your LinkedIn. Convert it into articles because you've already talked. Convert that into a newsletter. You can do so much with it, and you're only limited by your creativity. So if you're good at getting leads, maybe you need a team to help do this as well, but convert all of it and do all the avenues that I just mentioned, and it can really help you. And then I know something like our guest experience, we allow you to run it as ads if you want. So you can either boost the post, or if you talked about your book and you're on a podcast, then it's shown that those kind of ads actually do really well. So you can upload that video to Facebook Meta ads and then target the right kind of people who are going to like your book. And then you have video already. So just put some ad dollars behind it, $500, $1,000, or whatever makes sense for you. Try it long enough to see actual results and measure it, which sometimes could be 3 to 6 months. And then don't give up and just keep doing it. And then once you find out what it is, you either need to adjust or you need to double down. And literally that will help create clients based on a podcast guest experience. And if you really want that VIP guest experience, then we would love to have you. Go to jtvisuals.com. That's jtvsuals.com. All right, thank you guys so much for this video. I hope it meant something to you as far as all these questions, or you found the right segment and it was such a great insight to you. Let me know in the comments below, because I like to know if we're helping you or not. So I'm encouraging you to make sure and do the reps, keep making that content, and keep on keeping on.